Welcome to Kuti, a podcast where people from endangered and indigenous language communities around the world come together to share their experiences, challenges, and successes. In today's episode, we're talking about mythology and folklore. What legends have been passed down in our communities, and what stories did we grow up with? Which mythological beings were admired, and which were feared? We're joined by Anna Garvin, a member of the Scottish Gaelic community, as well as a musician and language activist. We're also joined by Maddi Kintana, a Basque speaker from Donostia, a Basque language teacher, and a PhD candidate in Basque linguistics. Our third speaker is Una McGeough, an Irish speaker and alumna of the University of Cambridge and Pompeu Fabra University, who currently works for the Northern Ireland Civil Service. In this episode, we explore common themes across different communities. From duck-footed Lamiak to the Banshee, and from Scottish Selkies to the Basque deity Mari, we reflect on the stories that shaped our childhood, the creatures we feared or admired, and what these traditions can tell us about our ancestors.
So, Una McGeough is Misha Una McGeough, tá mé fiche chuig bliana d'aois. Tá mé lech Chatalónach agus lech Éireannach ach tugadh mé gontaí Chiaróin I dúsgart na hÉireann. Gur míle mai agah as cur thuirt a bheith marí a bhar do podcast. Tá méid siúil go mór le fóglam faoi bhar culture agus bhar scéalta anocht, chomh maith le rinne a dheanú faoi mo chuid féin. So basically, what I just said was my name is Una McGeough, so I give sort of my Irish version of my second name, which would be McGeough. McGeough is the anglicised version. Just a bit of background on myself. So I hold a first class languages degree from the University of Cambridge. I also hold a master's in international relations from Barcelona. I have studied Irish for A-level in secondary school and continue to do so during my time at university. So I've recently moved back to the north of Ireland, to Belfast specifically, where I am now working for the civil service. In my spare time, I love to undertake Irish language classes in West Belfast. I'm also highly passionate about the other cultural aspects surrounding my country. For example, I'm very musically involved. I've played the bagpipe since I was 8 years of age. I'm also doing boron lessons now. I also play Gaelic football, camogie every week. I pride myself in being a minority languages activist. During my time in Catalonia, I really enjoyed bridging both Irish and Catalan by intertwining the different cultures and establishing connections between people in Ireland and those in Catalonia. And I'm also proud to say that I achieved a C1 certificate in Catalan. So yeah, minority languages and their cultures are something I'm very passionate about, and preserving them, of course.
Hello, is Misha Anna. Sauna is an open hami on an alpa. Hami nam neach cúil, bí mi clúch fianna agus níl, agus bí mi tcheicisc, cúil cúteach, agus hami cúteach a gopur on an TV a geno roundsahug agus camera, agus hami an drast a gopur a company a ha geno programming TV son BBC Alpa, geno programming cúil on Gaelic. So yeah, in English, I'm Anna. I come from Oban in Scotland, and I speak Gaelic. I am a musician. I play the piano and the fiddle, and I teach music through Gaelic and in English. And I'm also working in TV and doing research and camera. I'm at the moment working for a company that makes Gaelic music programs for BBC Alpa.
Kaixo, Maddi deitzen naiz eta Euskal Herrikoa naiz, Donostiakoa. Baionan bizi naiz eta euskara irakasle naiz AEKan, eta euskal ikasketak egin ditut ere bai doktoretzan. So, my name's Maddi. I'm from the Basque country, from San Sebastian, Donostia. But I live right now in Bayona, in northern Basque country, where Basque is not official. I am a speaker of Basque, which is the only non-Indo-European language in Western Europe, and the only a Paleo-European language too, but it's also super modern. I'm a Basque teacher for adults in AECA, and I'm also a PhD student focusing on Basque studies around the language, like how the youth speak Basque here. And yeah, I'm very passionate about this podcast. Una, you mentioned you were like you A-level speaker of Irish at school. I really don't know how that works. Does it mean that you learned Irish at school, or how did you become fluent at it? I would love to hear like your explanation about that sentence, and maybe also like your education in Irish.
Yeah, I'm actually not fluent, unfortunately. I'd say at a C1 level, so I was quite fluent. I studied A-level Irish, so that would be in secondary school. It's 7 years basically, so I did every single year in Irish. Unfortunately, in the north, Irish isn't a compulsory subject. You can study it. You have to study it up until you're 14 years of age, and after 14 you get to decide whether or not you want to pursue further studies in that language. So I was very passionate always about the Irish language, so I chose to do it up until I was 18. And because I did end up going away to university in England, I wasn't able to pursue a degree in the language. So I do, yeah, I get sad about that, but at least I'm doing my best to immerse myself once again into the language.
I think it's great to be able to come back to it and pick up from where you've left as well. And then I didn't realize that did you say it was compulsory up until 14?
Yeah, so it used to be up until 16 you had to do a language, and then they like abolished that. So, after I think it's up to third year now. Post third year you can choose whether or not to continue with language studies. It does, whether that is Irish, French, Spanish, whichever. Now children actually they get the choice. So I think it's quite a pity to see that. I think languages are so important regardless of whether they're minority languages or not.
Yeah. It's just interesting to hear because here in Scotland there are kind of Gaelic schools, like Gaelic medium education schools, but then when you go to high school, there are, I think there's maybe one high school, there might be more than that now actually, where you're doing all your other subjects through Gaelic. But when I went to high school, I had to choose Gaelic as a subject, like you're saying, like you pick it like you would choose French or Spanish or whatever. And then that's when people start to not speak it as much because they're not doing it kind of speaking it all the time. But then I don't know how, if we made it compulsory, if that would make people not want to speak the language, or I don't know how it would pan out exactly. How was it? Do people have that in Ireland? Is it kind of like because you're told? Like, I don't know. I've got a friend in Ireland. She was saying that because she was told she had to do it in school, she didn't want to do it, but now she's actually coming back to it and really wants to learn the language. So it's come full circle. I don't know if that's a thing that lots of people experience.
I've definitely heard quite a few stories. At least in the Republic, it is compulsory. I know that much. I've definitely heard a few complaints about people sort of pushing back on the language and you sort of refusing to engage with it because it is compulsory. But I do think, if we don't make it compulsory, it's something with regards to when it comes to minority languages, you almost have to make them compulsory.
Yeah.
And the education system is really the only place that's a safeguard for the language. If we don't have that last cornerstone for it, then you do essentially lose the language, at least the foundations for the language.
Yeah, no, I mean, I wish it was compulsory here. I wish Gaelic was compulsory in the schools. It's just we're not at that stage yet.
Yeah, it's not.
It's interesting.
I don't know. I remember in the Basque country learning that there was 3 different school systems. Is that correct?
Yeah, so because we are divided in three, we like in each administrative region you have like different kind of schooling, and in each like administrative region you also have like different ways. So in the Basque autonomous community, it is compulsory to learn Basque at least as a subject, but most people learn it like with the immersive schooling system where everything is in Basque. There are also some that are like mixed, like 50-50. And that's where I heard like you were telling about like imposing, like they felt like they were like imposing their language to them and that they didn't want to continue speaking the language. So I've heard that a lot, like in the Basque country. In the Basque autonomous country, sorry. But here in northern Basque country, it is not official. There's like no official like law to protect the language, so it's all based on how the politicians feel about it and how much pressure we put on them. So here it's not official, that means it's not compulsory. There is only one high school where you can learn entirely in Basque, in northern Basque country. And there are some schools that start to do like 50-50 Basque French, but well, it's not enough. And there is the schooling system that's called CHK, it's like the ikastolas. Those are like they are not private, they are like between public and private, and you can learn everything in Basque there. But there are a lot of obstacles for those schools. So and then in Navarra, in Navarre, you have like in the northern part it's official, so you have to learn Basque at school. Like I did I did that in San Sebastian too. Like I learned Basque at school, normal. But if you go down south, you only can learn it as a subject, so only like 2 hours per week, or you have to go to the ikastola to this like it's like an association of schooling system where they learn in immersive. Yeah. So it's complicated. It depends on where you are from, where you live, everything. But it like both of you like resonated with me in that sense.
No, I was just going to talk about Una, how you play the bagpipes, because I thought that was interesting to me. Well, just because like where I come from in the west coast of Scotland, it's just a big bagpipe scene. The pipes are a big part of the culture. My partner plays the pipes as well, and my brother. So there's a load of pipes going on. I used to play the drums in the high school pipe band when I was in school. So it's nice seeing there's so many similarities, I guess, with the culture too.
Yeah, definitely. It used to be bigger here with bands, but it doesn't seem to be, at least, we obviously have the nationalist unionist divide. With the unionist sector, it's still quite a huge thing, but with nationalists, there isn't a lot of interest for bands anymore. A lot of them just fold. It's quite hard now to find, especially bagpipe bands. It's not as common as you'd think here. A lot of it is due to the fact that a lot of teenagers and adults and children would have went to play, Gaelic football, camogie, the sports side of things. So I guess in a way you could say it has sort of detracted from the band culture as such. But no, I've been playing them since I was 8. I've been in a band since I was 8. So yeah, for me it's always been a big thing. I think it's more so like a family tradition for me. I had my great uncle used to play the bagpipes too, so I guess in a way maybe it's family lineage for me more so than the actual cultural aspect of it. Yeah, they're the Highland bagpipes as well, so yeah, the affinity that we share with Scotland are obviously huge.
Yeah, the loud ones.
Yeah.
It's really cool to see like how you share so many similarities. Well, I mean, you are close geographically too, but like, do you feel any kind of kinship?
I think so. I definitely think through music, I've felt that going over to Ireland and just feeling like there's obviously like the music is different and there's different kind of just different style, I guess. But I think it just we do kind of have the similarities with the music and, well, obviously the language as well. We were saying how it does look different written down, but when people are talking it feels almost like the same language or very similar anyway. I think, I don't know what you think, Una.
Yeah, no, definitely. There are a lot of historical ties with Scotland, well, between Scotland and particularly the north of Ireland. A lot of like mercenaries would have been sourced directly from Scotland. For example, we have the Gallo glasses. They were taken directly from the Highlands to fight for the different clans here, like the O'Neills, the Maguires. These were the different clans sort of that they outsourced the Gallo glasses because they were known for being so fierce and quite rowdy. A lot of obviously we have the plantation. A lot of people sort of would have integrated then. That's where we get the Ulster Scots from. And even before that, there was huge integration. You could see that by the surnames, of course. There's a lot of Macs up in the north, especially. You wouldn't get as many in the rest of Ireland, and that just comes directly from, I guess, the Scottish plantation or the people that were outsourced from the Kingdom of Scotland by the clans that we had here. So yeah, definitely a lot of kinship. And I know there's a lot of affinities between the Irish and the Basques as well. It's actually said that during the Spanish Armada, the Basques, we have what they call the Black Irish, which are essentially people with blue eyes but dark features, and they are said to have come directly from the Basque people. That during the Spanish Armada, they had a bad mapping. Like it was the mapping of Ireland, the island was poorly done, obviously because they didn't have the blueprint properly. So what happened then was a lot of sort of ships end up straying and washed ashore, and then obviously people came in to the mainland and integrated, particularly in the west coast of Ireland. So you see a lot in Scotland, or sorry, not Scotland, in Galway. And then of course I'll talk about it later, but the Banshee, there's a strong connection as well with, pretty sure, the Basque country with the Banshee. At least that's what my dad was telling me. But yeah, there's definitely a lot of affinity, I think, between all three places.
Yes, it's true. Well, particularly with Ireland, we've always felt like, I think, not only like linguistically, but also ideologically and politically, like a strong tie. I think the most I felt like at home when I've been like traveling, I've never been to Scotland, so I can't say that. But in Irish, in Ireland, I didn't have to explain myself. Like people just knew what Basques were, so that was really cool. But yeah, like today we're not just to talk about our backgrounds and stuff. We are talking also about something that can unite us, like the three of us, and that's mythology. And well, I don't have a lot of knowledge on Celtic mythology, so it will be like really clarifying.
Yeah, so I'm interested in mythology in Scotland just because, well, mostly because of its ties to the landscape and to the language as well, and the way that stories have been passed down orally for generations. And I've also, because I've got a tie to the Outer Hebrides, my granny's from Barra, my dad's mum's side is from Barra in the Outer Hebrides, and I've been going over there since I was really young. And I don't really know why, but compared to being in Oban, where I'm from, or being in Glasgow, where I live now, whenever I'd go over to Barra, it just kind of I felt much more connected to the landscape and kind of to old stories and folk tales and all that kind of thing. And yeah, like I say, the stories were passed down just through families, through singing, through poems, all that kind of thing. And yeah, the stories are kind of passed down, and I think they've probably some of them maybe changed as they go along, or they get exaggerated, and they're a lot of time taking influence from the landscape around. So I just find it really interesting because when I'm over in Barra, I do feel Like, and I was saying this earlier actually to my family. We were talking about it a wee bit. It's like I don't usually necessarily believe in ghosts and stuff like that, but when I go to bed, I'm like, I think I actually do. Just I don't know what it is. I connect to the landscape a bit more. Um, yeah, Una, can you tell me about why you're interested in Irish mythology?
Yeah, so I can't help just to become worried at times that I feel like we're slowly losing our culture that I believe is so intrinsically tied to our communities, our landscapes, and identities. I think it was quite common back in the day to engage what was known as caling. I'm sure, Anna, you're familiar with that term, caling. So basically, for those that aren't familiar, this is quite a traditional action of visiting neighbours and relatives at all hours of the night, without really warning. And you'd sit with maybe tea or whiskey or both, sharing stories and local happenings to those who were present. So this is how much of our folklore has been kept alive. A lot of people probably were illiterate back then, so really they relied on the oral transmission from generation to generation. Yet I feel these days we are living in a sort of world where individualism and sort of the imminent existence of technology are threatening our human connections. I sort of believe that the erosion of these stories are rife, with the new generations almost preferring and turning to materialistic and artificial ways, as sort of demonstrated by global moguls, or it's quite just through a one-sided approach through a screen. Like we're not getting that interaction back, like we did back in the old days. Just regardless of whether or not these tales and myths have some truth to them, or maybe they were just ways of people to keep themselves entertained, I think it's our duty to salvage them and to continue to transmit them, to document them and create more, and of course adapt them to modern society. Machi, and what about yourself? What do you take from the folklore myths of the Basque country? What drives you and interests you the most about them?
I mean, since I was a kid, I've always heard about it. My dad's family side, they are super into like Basque mythology. And it is true that we've kept like our stories and myths and everything, like even though we were like super Catholic, they've been kept alive. And my dad's side of the family and my dad too, they were like really trying to, like when we were kids, tell us stories and about places, about some divine creatures that were a part of our cosmology. And for example, we would go to a forest and they would tell us, oh, there is like fairies there, so like watch out and stuff like that. So it was really integrated into our, like, I'm not religious, I don't believe in magic or anything, but I really find it pretty and heartwarming to have those stories that have been like that have passed down through the like different generations. And also they tell us a side of history and also beliefs that Christianism has erased in a way. So that's also really interesting to see like how it looked like before Christianism here. And also I think, as you said, for me, what makes us unique is not only the language, but like all the surrounding, right? Like the culture, the folklore, everything. And of course, like folklore around Europe is really similar, but I think it's important that we don't lose our uniqueness. And it's getting harder and harder in this like globalized world. So I really think it's important to have that knowledge about ourselves. And finally, like a language is not just like a medium of communication, it's a whole world, and that makes it also part of it. So who are like your deities? Like who are like the main characters in your mythology, or maybe your favorite ones?
Okay, so I have a few different stories. I can start off with the Banshee, if you'd like to hear about that. So basically, the Banshee is derived from the Irish for ban, meaning woman, and say a fairy. So basically, this is a fairy who follows those families. Well, really what it is families from ancient Malaysian Gaelic stock, I think it's called. But more so that I would have known it as those beginning with O, so surnames, and Mac. So, like for example, O'Neill, or even like my surname McGeough. Mac meaning son of in Irish, and O meaning from in Irish. Um, so there's obviously a very strong connection with family lineages. Basically, this fairy is disguised in the form of a cloaked woman. The Banshee is known to set out in the porches of those bearing these surnames in the middle of the night, wailing and clapping her hands as she announces a nearing death. So the Kenya or Keen, which is the cry of the peasantry at a funeral, is said to be an imitation of her own cry. And when more than one banshee is heard simultaneously, they wail and sing in a chorus. So this basically warns of the death of a holy or great person. So I'd like to just kind of bring that to a personal story that I actually have passed down throughout my family. It's actually my own grandparents themselves. So we would come from an area called the Brantry. It's in the middle of nowhere in County Tyrone, very, very rural. So it is said that my grandparents heard a banshee in the mid 1960s. They opened the door and they could hear crying in the distance, thought nothing of it, came back inside. They heard it again, opened the door, and it was coming from all directions. They thought it was maybe possibly a child that had been left out, like an abandoned child. It was quite common for that to happen. But that wasn't the case. So they were so convinced of it that my grandfather drove to the neighbouring county Monaghan, which is over the border, in the middle of the night to make sure that my maternal great grandmother was safe, and then drove to his own parents' home in the Brantry in Tyrone to establish the same. It turns out that an old lady from the area of that lineage actually died that very same night.
Wow, that's spooky. I was going to say that we also have our kind of version of the Banshee in Scotland.
What's the version of it in Scotland?
Yeah, there's Banshee or Ben Nia, so she's like a washerwoman. But I think it's definitely there's the crossing over so much from Ireland and Scotland all the time, and these stories have crossed over too. So yeah, you were talking about how the Banshee followed specific families. I think it's the same in Scotland. There's like Highland families believed that they had a Banshee attached to them. But yeah, Ben Nia, she sounds quite a wee bit ominous. Apparently she was seen at streams, like washing clothes of people who were about to die. But the same kind of thing, it's like a kind of messenger. It's the saying that there's going to be a death in the family or something like that. So yeah, there's definitely ties with the different myths.
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't recall having anything like the Banshee in the Basque country. I don't recall anyone. Like we have different like figures. Yeah, like for example, we believe or maybe like in farmhouses they believe that there is like Eche Yauna, which are like the spirits of the ancestors of the people that lived in that house, and that they are there to be with you. They're like some kind of like more horror creatures like in Guma, but not like a women wailing specifically that way. Yeah, we don't have really, like, we are not Celtic, so I think we have like other kind of stories. But I think I will, like, for me, or for not just for me, like the most important figure in the Basque mythology is a figure of Maddi. So Maddi is she creates everything. She's like the main goddess. So that's something that sets Basque mythology apart. It still retains that matriarchal figure of mythology. Like it's a woman that's like the highest power, and like all forms or nature are represented by women or so. So she's called Maddi, and she's at the same time Mother Nature, and also she's the queen of all the creatures of the night. and we just love her. We have like a lot of we have even like movies, songs about her. What else to say about her? What I find really cool is that those myths are really, I don't know if it's because they're older or they've been passed through that way, but they go over morals. So the characters are those characters, they are not good or evil. They are just like a constant contrast. And for example, Maddi, she can be very mean with you, but she can also be really grateful to you. It depends if you help her or not. They've pictured her as a woman like with really long red or blonde hair with like, and she's wearing like a fireball. She travels with fire, and she usually has a cow that's called Sesengorria or Beigorria. So it's a cow, a red cow that tells you that Maddi is there, and she lives in a cave. So she has like different places where she lives, and she travels from mountain to mountain in the Basque Country. You can find stories about her in all over the Basque Country in different mountains, but I would say that the main mountain is Amboto, which is situated in Vizcaya, and she has like you can go visit that. It's called Maddi's Cave. I've never been there. I wish I want to go there, but it's really difficult to get. It's really rocky mountains and really dangerous. And the story like says that if you want to ask something to Maddi, you have to go there, and you can't turn. You can never turn the back to her. Like you can never do that. So for example, if you are going to see her, you have to talk to her in Ika. That's like an informal way of talking in Basque. You have to keep on that, and then when you exit the cave, you have to walk backwards, because it's a huge sign of disrespect to put her back to her. So those are, and also something that we really like to do here, we have like this flower that's called Egusquilore. And it's a Carolina flower, I think, in English. I don't know how it's called. Egusquilore, and it's sun-dried. It grows up on the mountains, and we put it on our doors in the farmhouses. And I have one in my apartment, for example, at the door, at the main entrance. And it's supposed to prevent bad spirits to enter your house. And also, it means that you believe in Maddi, and that Maddi is like taking care of you. It means that you that's a call for her to protect you. So that's something that I always do. Everywhere I live, I put a Egusquilore in the main entrance door, and it just keeps the house safe from bad spirits. So yeah, like we have a lot of characters in the mythology, but Maddi is like the main one, and they're like. It's really funny because you can find like pop songs like from last year that are like love letters to Maddi, to what she does and stuff. Because she's like a really free woman. She has a boyfriend who's a snake, and when they have sex, like there's like thunder and stuff around. And also she has like several sons who are also her lovers. So you can see like the ethics and morals are older than what we have now. So yeah, I just love Maddi. She's my fave. I don't know if you have like some kind of figure like her, but she is like the main goddess of the cosmogony here in the Basque Country.
Maddi sounds badass. I like the sound of her.
Yeah.
Very cool.
Definitely.
We do have, I don't know if you have one similar thing in Ireland, but the Cailleach, it's like so it literally means old woman, but she's kind of a creator, kind of, she's associated with the winter. I was kind of just recently kind of discovering her. She is meant to kind of bring the winter in, and then there's the Bríde who brings the summer in Scotland. I don't know if it ties in with Ireland as well, but she's meant to be a pretty fierce creator as well. And I was researching her before because I had this really strange dream that there was this woman standing at the door, a kind of veiled woman, just looking at me. It was a bit of a nightmare. But so I then started just kind of researching this Cailleach, and yeah, and I guess it's all tied in with the landscape, but she's meant to kind of bring in the snow and the frost, and then Bríde takes over in the summer basically, and then they kind of swap over. So she's meant to be pretty powerful as well. I don't know if that's something that you have a similar thing in Ireland.
I actually have never heard of her before.
No.
Maybe I'm just not aware, but it's not something I'm familiar with at all, to be honest.
Well, I wasn't actually either until recently, and I was looking
Yeah.
up. So it might be, yeah, yeah.
I know what we do have something in common. I actually just saw you commented under my example, but we have what's known as a puka or black dog. Um, so basically, I have another story relating to this, like quite a local story, but this puka is known. It's a shapeshifter or animal spirit, so it's derived from the Irish for puck, meaning a he goat. And he has many shapes, so a horse, a donkey, a goat, an eagle, a black dog. So in this instance, my story is in the form of the black dog version of the puka. So sort of the central character, this is also local, this happened in the same area, the Brantry is where the Banshee was heard. So within the parish of Aglish, this is in County Tyrone. So there's an individual who was known as J.I., a Protestant of planter extraction. Pretty sure his family still live in the area. There were no exact dates ever given in relation to his exploits, but it appears that more or less we're talking about the 1890s or so. Basically, it was told that this man would have been, quite in contact with black dark magic. It's even said that a lot of people had spotted him in a bar just reading from like a book, a witch's book or spell book. And there was one stage, a wheelbarrow was just like floating up and down in the actual building. So, but basically what happens is, obviously this man at some stage passed away. And there was sort of a drama that when his coffin containing his body was taken out of the house and loaded onto the horse, the hearse, in preparation for the journey to the Protestant church and graveyard, it was impossible to get the horses to move. They just would not move. They would not budge from the spot, and no amount of whipping, prodding, kicking would make the animals move. So basically, what's quite ironic actually is that the pastor end up having to send for a Catholic priest to come and try to get these horses to move. So, anyways, this priest who was coming from Aglish, it's unknown exactly who he was. It might have been Father Hughes or Father O'Neill. He proceeded with a ritual which involved a sprinkling of holy water over both of the horses, and whispering into the ear of each one of the animals. So basically, after this, the hearse and the horses did begin to tow, and they went off to their way to bury the man. So apparently, it's said that prior to the departing, the priest told the people congregated outside, "He'll be back before you have him buried." Obviously, nobody knew exactly why the priest was being so cryptic, and what exactly was to happen, but turns out that not long after the funeral service was taking place, a servant girl who was brushing and cleaning out the bedroom in which the JI had just recently died was suddenly terrified by a huge black dog that just came running up the house, up the stairs, and under the deathbed before the mourners had returned from the burial. So what happened then is the priest was once again called for, the Catholic priest. A proper exorcism was conducted, and the spirit was contained into the confines of a glass bottle, and this bottle was then sent into the Una bridge, under the bridge, which to this day is still there, the Una River, which flows. And apparently, somebody found the bottle and opened it. And I don't know if that's a rumor, but so whether or not the spirit has been unleashed, I'm not sure. I haven't heard of anything yet, so I think it's okay.
No, yeah, your story reminded me.
You were saying you have like a similar one as well.
It was actually more like a story. It was something that happened in my family, like not that long ago. It's probably at least 10 years ago now. But it's a friend of my dad's was over visiting the house. It was my granny's house, so up the road from my parents, and my dad was just showing him around the house and asked him at the end, "What do you think of the house?" And he said, "It's a very nice house, but there's a black dog in the corner of the room," which was just so you just reminded me of that with that little. It was just such a strange kind of thing for him to say, and he's completely normal, sane guy. But apparently there was a black dog in the house. It was a wee black dog. I don't think it was a massive black dog, but but I don't know if that's in some way connected or if it's something completely different. But I think we do have a black dog in Scottish folklore as well, Coo-She, like the fairy dog, and that's a big black kind of hound as well. And it's similar, I think, to the Banshee, kind of letting out his loud barks, and it kind of means that someone's going to die, basically. Yeah, there's quite a lot of that theme that runs through a lot of the myths, I think.
Yeah.
I was going to talk about another one that I don't know if it's specific to Barra, but my dad had heard the story when he was over in Barra as a kid, like growing up, and it was to do with the seals. There are a lot of myths and legends about seals in Scotland, and the Selkies as well, which are half seal, half human, and they can shed their skin, their seal skin, to be human, and then put their skin back on, be a seal again. And yeah, the kind of superstition or myth legend, I guess, that my dad had heard was that if a seal comes to your door, then someone in the family is going to die, which I've always found quite interesting, because I was always wondering how a seal was going to get up to your door. But I think also hearing the seals when they wail, it does actually sound quite haunting. It's quite spooky, and I can see how these stories can come about, and they're really curious as well. Like, I've been down at the beach, and if you sing to them, they start coming closer as well. They really like hearing your voice and hearing you sing. So yeah, are seals, myths to do with seals, something that you have in either Basque Country or Ireland?
Well, we don't have seals here. That doesn't exist. But we do have like half women stuff. Like, as you said, I had heard of Selkies, and I find it like really fascinating to see how in each culture, like, we have like different versions of that. Here we have the Lamiak. So those are women too, and it depends where you live in the Basque Country. If you live on the coast, they are half fish, half women, so like mermaids. But if you live in the mountains, they live in the river, and they have usually like dog's feet. So they are entirely like women with really long hair, but their feet are not human feet; they are dog feet. And so we have like so many stories about them. Like, I don't know, there are like a couple that are really famous, but we really have like maybe like dozens and dozens of stories about the Lamiak. And they also, like, I think it's mesmerizing to see how we create from, like, it depends on the animal, this thing where we have like beautiful or like really mysterious women that's half animal. I don't know. And yeah, like in my case, I grew up also hearing about those stories. They usually have a golden comb, so they are combing their hair like in the river, and they can be really mean. So they are usually really mean to men. They only like them to have kids, get pregnant, and that's all, and then they chase them. Like that's those are some versions, and they also like really competitive, so they will build like bridges faster than everyone else, and they will make like pacts with the devil, and so and they will also like help sometimes humans also like have birth kids, and if you are nice to them. There is even one myth that says Lamiak had like the 7 provinces of the Basque country are all like Lamiak's kids. So we have like a couple. A really famous one is in Ligi. That's a really tiny town in the mountains in Chibedua, and they are said to have made a pact with the devil where they will be able to build a bridge before sunrise. And they were able to do it, but at some point, like there was like the feudal lord of the valley or of the town that didn't want the devil to lose, like because he also made a pact with the devil. So when he saw that the Lamias were finishing the bridge, he made the rooster sing because people used to woke up that way. And so the Lamias were frightened that they will lose the pact, so they left the bridge, and only one stone was missing. So that's how they lost the pact. But nowadays you can go to that town, and they say that there is one stone missing. I've been a couple of times. I still haven't found it. But it's called the Bridge of the Lamiak. It's written like Laminian Subia. And yeah, so that's a really famous one, for example. But we have so many others also with Lamiak. And there was like this film that came out like 2 years ago. It's called Irati. And the main character is a Lamia. So it's really cool. They made like with duck's feet and everything. But for me, in Donosti, we mostly have Ichas Lamiak, which are the mermaids kind of women. And my dad, he always says, like my grandparents are, well, we threw the ashes on the sea. So my dad always tells us like, oh, like your grandparents just became Lamiak. They are like swimming with the Lamiak. So there's a lot of like imagery that we use in our everyday life to talk about it. I don't know if you have any kind of half women, half animal in Ireland or something like that.
We don't have those. Well, maybe we do. Again, I'll do my research, but I think we have, again, massive overlap with Scotland. We have fairies. My pronunciation probably so bad, but Siog. So it's basically a diminutive for Banshee. But fairies are Dina Sai, meaning fairy people. So they sort of live in a limbo form between fallen angels. Not good enough to be saved, but bad enough to be damned for eternity. So they're actually very powerful if you treat them well. This is a bit like the story about Maddi as well that Maddi was saying. If you treat them well, your life will be full of abundance. But if you fail to respect their territories or belongings, you will be cursed forever. And to this day, countless fairy forts and fairy trees can still be seen across Ireland in isolated fields. Which throughout the generations have been met with the utmost respect and reverence for the power that they hold and how sacred the land they inhabit is. So we actually have another story here involving fairies. So fairies signalling death. So through a ring of fire, there's a neighbour by the surname Casey. He was found dead exactly where this circle of fire, and then So it was a circle of fire, basically dancing around this field. The next day, the neighbor was found dead in that exact spot. But ended up that they progressed from a ball, like a circle of light, to like a burning bush almost, but the bush was never on fire, and it had been spotted by, I'm pretty sure it was my family members. Anyways, there is quite a lot of grassroots activism still to this day with people who oppose the destruction of these ancient fairy forts and trees. I know, for example, my own family has gotten involved before in escalating issues to the local council to make sure that none of these landmarks would remain untouched, because they had been under threat of destruction just by farmers coming in and turning the land, and grazing and whatnot. So yeah, there is a lot of respect still, and I think, yeah, it's people are fear, or at least in the past they would have feared fairy trees and forts, and you would never ever have intruded with any of these landmarks.
Yeah, we've got the Sheachin in Scotland as well, and it's very similar. So we have a kind of online resource for Gaelic and Scots kind of oral traditions called Topter and Dulcish, or Kist of Riches. It's like a well of heritage, basically. That's what it means in Gaelic, Topter and Dulcish. And it was from like the 1930s. There were kind of field workers went out and just tried to get as much audio recordings with people as they could of songs and poems and stories and all that kind of thing. So whenever I'm trying to find something interesting, maybe like a story in Fabra or like a song or something like that, I quite often go on to Topper and Dulcish to look for these things. And I was looking at the fairies, and it's what you were saying. In Ireland, they came to earth after the gates of heaven were closed to them, and they didn't like the look of hell, so they took to the hills instead. And yeah, they're different to what you see in films now. Like they didn't have wings and kind of little cute fairies like what you see in films. And I think sometimes they were even giant instead of little tiny things. And the same kind of thing, living in glens and knolls. And I think they're known to be mischievous as well. They're not always completely good, not always completely bad as well. But they could lure people away, and they love music and dancing. So yeah, it's the same thing. Just people have a lot of respect for them. And I think you were talking about before, Una, about how the culture isn't the same as it was, back in the day, and you don't have so much of this kind of keeping the heritage going. I'm actually reading a book at the moment that's basically all about that. It's a Gaelic author it's not actually in Gaelic, it's in English, but it's called Donald and His 7 Cows. And it's basically this farmer who walks about round the same kind of mile, or he goes round and round with his cows every day, and he talks about the fairies and kind of the old stories and all that stuff, and also about how things have started to change with technology coming in, and people, like you were saying, looking at screens instead of actually, communicating with each other and using the stories and keeping these things going, which I think is so important, because it's really tied to the language as well. And if we don't share these stories and keep them going, then there'll be a whole part of a language that's also lost. So yeah, definitely very important.
Yeah, what you said about Andorres, I don't know, sorry, my mispronouncing. We also have like a bunch of these, like Aochak or Mintoak, where they record people like telling their stories, and like you have like maybe more than 400 videos where or recordings where they are talking about myths and like tales from their childhood. It's also used for the dialects to see how they spoke each dialect, but we also have that, so that's really cool to see that we try to have always like a page to have everything there so we can search it up also like really easily. And yeah, I think it's also really interesting for like mythology in our case. It's because sometimes with traditions I'm really afraid that like right wingers will take it and use it like, you know, really Puritan way, in a really we have to keep the traditions way, and without taking into account that also like those tales they change with the passing of the time and stuff. And I'm really glad to see that here, for example, most like there's been like a revival of Basque mythology, and also we've been like doing the analogy of losing our Basque way of thinking with also like losing our language. So there is like that thing like about the oppression that we suffer as a Basque. We also see a lot of metaphors through the mythology, and at the same time it's also really tied to, well, more like revolutionary activism, even like queer activism. I have like an amazing example. Like some weeks ago, there is a drag collective from a southern Basque country. It's called Marushak, and they just did a video about the Lamiak, and you can see them. They are in drag, and they did like the Lady Marmalade Basque with queer artists. Like they took like many different queer artists and they portray different like mythological creatures, and I will send it to you. Like it's really, it's an amazing video, and they take so this kind of oral tradition and those tales and give them like another meaning. That's what you said at the beginning, Una. And I find it that when a community takes traditions and are able to change it and pass it through with those changes, and also use them for social justice and for also like that dream of a better world, and it's really beautiful. And for me, I'm just so glad to see that so many queer and feminist artists are using mythology as a way also to deconstruct like gender essentialism and like many kinds of essentialism. So yeah, that's my main thought about it. And of course, that cannot happen if we don't record and save all this oral tradition that has been passed down through all the lineages too. Yeah, for me it was really interesting. Like I've heard about Selkies, about Banshees, but it was really like superficial what I knew, and also mostly from a really like, for example, the Banshees appear in American TV shows and stuff, so it's cool to listen like what you have to say about those wailing. And also I like how in every kind of pre-Christian like mythology you can have that sense of morality that goes above being good or bad, and it's just more complex than that. So it was really interesting to listen also about Black Dog, that I never heard of that kind of story, so that was really fun. And yeah, it's also interesting to see like how close you are from each other, like the both of you, and at the same time you have like really different stories. And yeah, and see that even though we don't have like the exact same stories, we still share some abstract like ideas in those mythologies that show how it was like some years ago, like a lot of years ago.
Yeah, it's just really interesting to hear the similarities with Scotland and Ireland. And I knew that there were lots of similarities, but it's just really interesting how they are so similar. But then there are things that are different, and I've learned I need to go and do some research into some of them as well, because I'm really curious now. I didn't know much about the Black Dog actually before this. I just had that story, that has always kind of slightly freaked me out. Yeah, I think I don't know what kind of collaboration we could do, but it'd be great to have some sort of collab. Seeing as that Irish and the Scottish mythology, they are very similar, and if there's some sort of kind of language collaboration that could come out of that, that'd be great. Trying to keep these, even the whole, like you're talking about, the kind of impromptu Cayley thing. If there's some kind of something in there of trying to keeping the traditions going, keeping the like the Sean Hanks, we call it, like the kind of old sayings and the myths and legends and stuff that come with that. Is also really interesting to hear the Basque myths as well, and I really want to go and learn more about Maddi because she sounds really cool. I mean, Maddi's my middle name, so it's I feel like maybe that's why I was like, oh, she sounds really cool, but no, she sounds amazing. And is it Lem? What was the name of the other one that you were talking about? The Lamiak? I don't
Lamiak.
know. Lamiak, yeah, yeah. Want to learn more about them as well. I definitely think there are kind of themes that are very similar across all three of them, and it's just really interesting to hear about.
Yeah, no, likewise. There's not much else I can say that hasn't already been said. I'm just so grateful to have had the opportunity to share my personal family stories that I didn't think would ever make it out of the living room, to be honest. Yeah, these are stories I've been listening to every Iha sauna, just every Halloween, by the fireplace. So it's such an honor to be able to share them to, an audience as well and to yourselves. So yeah, I'm very grateful for being on this podcast. And thank you for having me. And also, it was a pleasure to have listened to both your accounts as well on the different mythological creatures and sort of folklore of your own regions as well and countries. And I would love to see how we could sort of progress those ties further, and those kinships between the different regions we have spoken about. Whether we sort of propose our own Halloween version, or I don't know, we do like our own gathering, our own Kaylee, even if you want to put it that way. I think there's definitely a lot we can explore with that. So yeah, Gurmagat, and I look forward to staying in touch with you guys as well, and to listening to more of what you have to say about your own cultures and languages.